Hello everyone. I'm recording today from house sit number 6 in Leon, Guanajuato, but the topic of today's video is going to be our previous house sit number 5, which took place last month. The location is a small beach village called La Cruz for short. The long name, I know I'm not going to pronounce perfectly, La Cruz de Huanacaxtle in the state of Nayarit in Mexico. La Cruz is located in between two pretty popular tourist destinations. It is on the same bay, the large bay Bahia de Banderas that Puerto Vallarta is situated on. So La Cruz is 1 hour north of Puerto Vallarta, and it's about 30 minutes south of the other popular surf destination, Sayulita, Nayarit. The duration of the house sit was 3 weeks. In our initial talks, it was initially going to be about a month, but the dates when she went to actually book her flight, it got shortened by about a week, but it worked out perfectly fine because when I passed that information on to our current house sit, they decided to extend their trip by a week. So we didn't end up having to get an Airbnb between these two house sits. And even though the dates shrank a little bit, we were still able to go from one sit directly to the next without any sort of rental or downtime in between. As with most of our sits, this was booked via the Facebook group House and Pet Sitting in Mexico. I don't remember if our host contacted us or if we contacted them. The way the Facebook group works is that potential house sitters, so we put out a post periodically with our available dates and where we're going to be, and a little bit about ourselves, an introduction, why people might trust us to stay in their home and watch their pets. And also house sitters put out posts when they have a need for specific dates. Also, like the rest of our house sits so far, this sit had no compensation. It was a no money exchange. So we trade animal care and home care in exchange for staying in their home, and they pay utilities. I realize now that in my previous house sitting videos, because all of this is sort of a learning experience and how to make YouTube videos, I hadn't been mentioning the cost. Our only cost for house sitting is the travel costs to get to each destination. So this sit in particular was a fairly long drive from our previous house sits in down in Oaxaca. It was a 3-day drive from Oaxaca to get to La Cruz. However, in between our house sit in Oaxaca and the house sit in La Cruz, we had a vacation with our friends Casey and Woody, who came down from New Orleans. So the incentive to drive that far is higher than it would have been otherwise. The timing just worked out perfectly. So while we probably would be a little hesitant to do a 3-day cross-country drive for a 3-week house sit, it's the cost of gas and tolls and Airbnbs, which I will get to, sort of might outweigh the benefits of a 3-week sit. But because we were meeting our friends in Puerto Vallarta, La Cruz was just an hour north of Puerto Vallarta, and then it was just right on the way to our next house sit. The timing and location and everything was just absolutely perfect about this house sit. So we didn't mind that it was a long drive that we would be making anyways. The cost, we spent $161 on gas and $92 on tolls. I haven't really gone into this in previous videos, but Mexico has the option of driving on free roads or toll roads. Very briefly, the free roads are typically curvier and slower. They go through a lot of the beautiful small towns. The toll roads are typically more direct and get you there faster. They're newer roads. So for the most part, we take toll roads when we're going from one house sit to the other, and we typically take the free roads if we're doing more sightseeing and that sort of thing. In addition to that, we spent $73 on 2 Airbnbs as it was a 3-day trip. So our total cost to get from Oaxaca to La Cruz, from one house sit to the next, was $326. So again, if we hadn't had the incentive to meet our friends in Puerto Vallarta and have La Cruz be the perfect location to bridge the gap from Puerto Vallarta to our following house sit, we would have weighed things a little bit differently, but it worked out great. Now that we have those details out of the way, we'll move on to the good stuff. This house sit, we were sitting one dog, Gomita. She is a 70-pound Dogo Argentino and English Bulldog mix, and she is 100% pure sweetheart. She is the biggest dog that we've sat, and also one of the sweetest. I'll tell you a little bit about Gomita's backstory when we get into the photo portion of this video. But for now, we'll talk about our responsibilities at this house sit. Of course, food and water. Gomita also has a special raw food diet. Before she was rescued, which again, I'll get into her story a little later, she had some food allergies, so her adopted mom has her on a special raw food diet. It's a combination of cooked oats and veggies, raw beef, raw liver, sardines, and occasionally an egg and powdered eggshell mixed in. She gets fed twice a day. And she gets walks throughout the day. She gets a longer morning and evening walk, and then a brief midday and a brief evening walk. However, as we were there in La Cruz during the hottest part of the year, which is very, very hot in that area, and Gomita is known to overheat. She doesn't handle the heat very well. So her even her morning and evening walks, which were a little bit longer, were sometimes just around the block. So her walks were not very time consuming, just enough to get out, do what she needs to do, circle around the block, and come back before she overheats. Which brings me to the perks of this particular house sit. So in addition to just really enjoying Gomita's companionship, we also really enjoyed La Cruz itself. It is a beach village, a population of less than 4,000 people. And as I mentioned earlier, being situated between two really popular tourist destinations, feels like La Cruz is just sort of left to do its own thing. It had a really comfortable, slow-paced beach vibe. And like most villages in Mexico, there was no major grocery stores or really major stores of any kind, so our grocery shopping was just an easy walk, about a half block down to the little family-owned tiendas. You got fresh produce, pretty much anything you could want, and of course, being on the beach, we had all the fresh seafood. Also a lot of really nice restaurants for the days that we didn't want to cook. And just walking the town itself was very enjoyable. It seems to me that there was some sort of push in the community for like an art street mural project. I would say the majority of the buildings in the village have beautiful paintings on them. It was just really amazing to just walk the streets. I know we were only there for 3 weeks, but we never got tired looking at the beautiful mural. So the town was just full of art, and I took a lot of pictures of the street art, as well as, of course, the street dogs and the street chickens, of which I would say Per capita, La Cruz is probably one of the highest per capita for both the dogs and chickens. So I got a lot of really good photos for potential upcoming photo books, which are still in the works. I'll keep you posted as soon as there's any news about that. La Cruz itself is about a 10-minute walk from one end to the other, and from our host apartment to the beach, I would say you're on the beach at the best place to swim in under 5 minutes. So it was very centrally located. Of course, being such a small village, pretty much anywhere would be centrally located, but it was a great location. Looking down from her second-story balcony, below us was a hamburger and hot dog stand, and across the street was the town's internet cafe. So a lot of people would sort of congregate there and hang out with their parrots, which somehow I did not get pictures of their group of 5 very friendly, talkative parrots who I would approach and say, "Hola, buenos dias, pájaros," and they were, sort of shy because they didn't know who I was. But then, as soon as I would walk away, they would all be singing, "Hola, hola." it was adorable. As with almost every village, town, or city in Mexico, La Cruz had a great little centro area. Even though it's a very small town, it still had an open area for gathering in the downtown. What's unique about this one is that it was a park as well. So a lot of the centro areas are paved open areas with just beautiful architecture all around. La Cruz did it a little differently, and it's a park with green grass and little gazebos. And lastly, another perk of this sit is that the host is another friend in Mexico. We really enjoyed meeting her and hearing her story as well as Gomita's story. So we keep in touch. We're now, internet friends as well as in-person friends. And there's a small possibility that maybe one of these days we'll get to come sit for Gomita again. Moving into the photo section, here we have Gomita's modeling session. This is their second story balcony here that Gomita very much enjoyed. Her pleasures in life are just simply being in the company of other people and just being outside and watching the street down below. And Gomita, being quite the character, she gave me some really good sassy faces. Here she is enjoying the beach on one of the less humid days when we ended up walking her all the way down to the beach. Without going into too much detail, Gomita has had quite a history. She was found as a young mother to a litter of puppies, locked in a house with a padlock, and I guess it was a lengthy story to get animal control involved. A number of the neighbors knew that there was a dog trapped in the house with puppies when the family moved out, but there was a lengthy paperwork or bureaucratic process of some sort. So by the time that animal control agreed to get involved, she was quite thin, having given almost all of herself to keep her puppies alive, nursing them in a situation with almost certainly no food, and they're not sure how she was getting water. After that, Gomita was taken to the area's only no-kill shelter, which is very fortunate for her. However, I guess because of her breed, it's not clear to me why she was in the shelter for the unimaginably long time of 4.5 years. So the no-kill shelter saved her life, but it's not one of those situations where she's getting the stimulation and getting all of her needs met. She's being kept alive until someone rescues her. So I mentioned previously she had some food allergies, some pretty severe food allergies. She was allergic to the food that she got for 4.5 years, and that gave her some skin conditions. She has a number of other health issues that her mom took care of after rescuing her. And now she has been out of the shelter and living a very happy beach life for a number of years. So her long, complicated backstory really shows through in her personality. She spends most of her day on her bed, chewing her toy, just very quietly entertaining herself. And while she would often sit with her back to you, whether we're on the couch or we're at the desk or whatever we were doing, entertaining ourselves in the house, she would often just look over her shoulder just to see if you're still there. And you can tell she's just happy being with someone, having that companionship with her. So to me, my takeaway from this house sit and meeting Gomita is just to enjoy the simple pleasures in life. And just for fun, I'll show you a few of the dog and chicken photos that I got on my photo walks through the village of La Cruz. A lot of them I'm keeping as a surprise for future photo books and promotion of all that. But here's a few favorites. And again, Mexico's division between house pet and street dog is not as clear cut as some of us may be accustomed to. So the ones that I'm showing you today, I believe, are actually people's outdoor pets. They have just free reign of the village. Most of them patrol the block or so around their house. And as I mentioned, La Cruz had a pretty high population of dogs living outside, which made Gomita's walks fairly complicated. But when I was walking with just my camera, of course, all the dogs were very friendly. So we got a lot of pictures of smiling dogs, including this little fella. And this guy posing nicely next to the ever-present Volkswagen. And this cute little guy, my favorite theme of dog photos is the porch chihuahua. And these chickens are also, I wouldn't call them pet chickens, but they definitely had a home. There was a few houses in about a 1-block radius that had chicken coops. They were across the street from an empty lot that the chickens also would get scratch from. They would get food there, socialize, and also roost in the trees, as we can see here. I found it interesting that a number of the chickens here in La Cruz were bantam-sized. So we're looking at the smaller breeds. They definitely, quite a few of them were the little, not quite Serama, smallest chicken size, but pretty small, cute little guys. That's it for house sit number 5. Thanks for watching another one of our house sitting videos. We have some more content coming up soon. I plan to make a video about our current house sit, number 6 in León, as well as a couple videos that I'm tentatively planning to call Mexico Mishaps, which will cover how we dealt with our license plate getting stolen and how we got a replacement license plate through the commonly used expat loophole that is South Dakota, as well as our flat tire mishap that we had between Oaxaca and Puerto Vallarta, and our very friendly Mexico rescuers from that incident that could have been a lot worse than it was. So hopefully I'm going to have those publishing every week to 2 weeks on Mondays. So just keep an eye out for that. Thank you.